Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Is it audible? கேக்குதா பிரபுஜி?
கேக்குது மாதா. இது கொஞ்சம் ஸ்லோவா கேக்குது, வேற ஒண்ணும் இல்ல.
Hare Krishna. இப்போ கேக்குதா?
இப்ப பரவாயில்ல.
Okay. My humble obeisances to His Holiness Bhanu Swami Maharaj, His Holiness Jayapataka Swami Maharaj, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, and all the acharyas in the Sampradaya. And my humble obeisances to all the wonderful devotees on Zoom, on YouTube, and on Facebook. Thank you so much for your continuous support and motivation. Hare Krishna. Okay, so we're continuing with our study session of Srimad Bhagavatam. Now we are in Canto 1, Chapter 5, Text 10. Nayad Vachaschitra Padam Hareryasho Jagat Pavitram Pragrunita Karhichit Tadvayasam Tirtam Ushanti Manasa Nayatra Hamsa Niramantyusik Kshaya. Synonyms: not, yet that, vachaha vocabulary, chitrapadam decorative, hare of the Lord, yashaha glories, jagat universe, pavitram sanctified, pragnita described, karhichit hardly, tat that, vayasam crows, tirtham place of pilgrimage, ushanti think, manasa saintly persons, not, yatra where, hamsa all perfect beings, niramanti take pleasure, ushikshaya those who reside in the transcendental abode. Translation: those words which do not describe the glories of the Lord, who alone can sanctify the atmosphere of the whole universe, are considered by saintly persons to be like unto a place of pilgrimage for crows. Since the all-perfect persons are inhabitants of the transcendental abode, they do not derive any pleasure there. Purport. Purport. Crows and swans are not birds of the same feather because of their different mental attitudes. The fruity workers of passionate men are compared to the crows, whereas the all-perfect saintly persons are compared to the swans. The crows take pleasure in a place where garbage is thrown out, just as the passionate fruity workers take pleasure in wine and women and places for gross sense pleasure. The swans do not take pleasure in the places where crows are assembled for conferences and meetings. They are instead seen in the atmosphere of natural scenic beauty, where there are transparent reservoirs of water, nicely decorated with stems of lotus flowers in variegated colors of natural beauty. Thus, the difference between the two classes of birds. Nature has influenced different species of life with different mentalities, and it's not possible to bring them up into the same rank and file. Similarly, there are different kinds of literature for different types of men of different mentality. Mostly the market literatures which attract men of the crow's categories are literatures containing refuse remnants of sensuous topics. They're generally known as mundane talks in relation with the gross body and subtle mind. They are full of subject matter, described in decorative language, full of mundane similes and metaphorical arrangements. Yet with all that, they do not glorify the Lord. Such poetry in prose on any subject matter is considered decoration of a dead body. Spiritually advanced men who are compared to the swans do not take pleasure in such dead literatures, which are sources of pleasure for men who are spiritually dead. These literatures in the modes of passion and ignorance are distributed under different labels, but they can hardly help the spiritual urge of the human being. And thus, the swan like spiritually advanced men have nothing to do with them. Such spiritually advanced men are called Manasa also because they always keep up the standard of transcendental voluntary service to the Lord on the spiritual plane. This completely forbids fruitive activities for gross bodily sense satisfaction or subtle speculation of the material egoistic mind. Social literary men, scientists, mundane poets, theoretical philosophers, and politicians were completely absorbed in the material advancement of sense pleasure, are all dolls of the material energy. They take pleasure in a place where rejected subject matters are thrown. According to Swami Sridhara, this is the pleasure of the prostitute hunters. But literatures which describe the glories of the Lord are enjoyed by the Paramahamsas who have grasped the essence of human activities. Okay, so here they're telling whatever we talk, okay, the subjects which are not related to the Supreme Lord, okay, all that is a waste, okay. It is like garbage. So only the uh, crows, crows usually get attracted to dirty things, the food, the eaten by the materialistic people, when it's thrown away, the crows get attracted to them. But anything, but the swans, they are very, very pure. They can even when you offer to them milk mixed with water, they only extract the milk leaving the water. They're so pure, okay. So that's what Prabhupada is telling here in his purport. Actually, these crows and swans are not of the same feather, okay? Usually birds of the same feather flock together, okay? Somebody who's of same nature, they associate with each other, okay? When we are of a different nature to another person, we generally don't associate with them. So similarly, these crows are compared to these fruity workers or passionate men because they're attracted to all these women and wealth, whereas the swans, they swan like men, the Paramahamsas, they take pleasure only in describing the activities of the Lord, okay, and glorifying the Lord. They don't get attracted to the scriptures, or not scriptures, they don't get attracted to the literatures which are mundane, okay, which are mundane topics, okay, about the material world, politics, and or whatever, okay. So, um, so that's what here it's told. Nature has influenced different species of life with different mentalities, and it's not possible to bring them up into the same rank and file. Okay, so we cannot categorize all the people in the same class. Okay, so different classes of men have different kinds of literatures. And mostly whatever is available in this market, this mundane literature, it will only attract the cow-like, the crow-like mentality. The people who are materialistic people get attracted to such kind of literature. Whereas people who are Paramahamsas, who are so pure, they get attracted to the literatures like Srimad Bhagavatam and all that, okay? But those people will not be so much attracted to reading this or hearing about Srimad Bhagavatam. So, and okay, but literatures which describe the glories of the Lord are enjoyed by the Paramahamsas who have grasped the essence of human activities. Because what is our goal of human life? It is to attain Krishna Prema, okay, to attain the Lord. So those who have realized the real goal of life, the essence of human activities, they will get attracted to these wonderful scriptures like Srimad Bhagavatam and all the things related to the Supreme Lord. Text 1.5.11. Tadvag visargo janataga viplavo yasmin pratishlokam abadhavati api namani anantasya yashonkitani yad shrinvanti gayanti grinanti sadhava. Synonyms: that vak, vocabulary, visarga, creation, janata, the people in general, agha, sins, viplava, revolutionary, Yasmin, in which Pratishlokam, each and every stanza, Abadhavati, irregularly composed, Api, in spite of, Namani, transcendental names, etc. Anantasya of the unlimited Lord, Yashaha glories, Ankithani depicted, yet what Shrinvanti do hear, Gayanti do sing, Grinanti do accept, Sadhava, the purified men who are harnessed. Translation. On the other hand, that literature which is full of descriptions of the transcendental glories of the name, fame, forms, pastimes, etc., of the unlimited Supreme Lord is a different creation, full of transcendental words, directed toward bringing about a revolution in the impious lives of this world's misdirected civilization. Such transcendental literatures, even though imperfectly composed, are heard, sung, and accepted by purified men who are thoroughly honest. So here Prabhupada says, even in the introduction of Srimad Bhagavatam, or rather the preface, I don't remember which one exactly, Prabhupada has described this verse, especially because he says, though I'm not very much qualified to write this great literature, I have done it, okay? So there might be many faults, but in spite of that, since this is a transcendental literature glorifying the Supreme Lord, I'm hoping that all of you will overlook my my like mistakes, like whatever I've done while composing this great literature, translating this great literature. So please forgive me, because in whatever mistakes, even if they're full of mistakes, it's okay. This is transcendental literature, so still it is very, like it gives a lot of bliss, and it's very nice, like that's what is the meaning. Such transcendental literatures, even though imperfectly composed, are heard, sung, and accepted by purified men who are thoroughly honest. Perfect. It's a qualification of the great thinkers to pick up the best even from the worst. It is said that the intelligent man should pick up nectar from a stalk of poison, should accept gold even from a filthy place, should accept a good and qualified wife even from an obscure family, and should accept a good lesson even from a man or from a teacher who comes from the untouchables. These are some of the ethical instructions for everyone in every place without exception. But a saint is far above the level of an ordinary man. He is always absorbed in glorifying the Supreme Lord, because by broadcasting the holy name and fame of the Supreme Lord, the polluted atmosphere of the world will change. And as a result of propagating the transcendental literatures like Srimad Bhagavatam, people will become sane in their transactions. While preparing this commentation on this particular stanza of Srimad Bhagavatam, we have a crisis before us. Our neighboring friend China has attacked the border of India with a militaristic spirit. We have practically no business in the political field. Yet we see that previously they were both China and India. We see that previously they were both China and India, and they both lived peacefully for centuries without ill feeling. The reason is that they lived those days in an atmosphere of God consciousness, and every country over the surface of the world was God fearing, pure hearted, and simple, and there was no question of political diplomacy. There's no cause of quarrel between the two countries, China and India, over land, which is not very suitable for habitation. And certainly, there's no cause for fighting on this issue. But due to the age of quarrel, Kali, which we have discussed, there's always a chance of quarrel on slight provocation. This is due not to the issue in question, but to the polluted atmosphere of this age. Systematically, there's propaganda by a section of people to stop glorification of the name and fame of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, there's a great need for disseminating the message of Srimad Bhagavatam all over the world. It's the duty of every responsible Indian to broadcast the transcendental message of Srimad Bhagavatam throughout the world, to do all the supermost good as well as to bring about the desired peace in the world. Because India's failed in her duty by neglecting this responsible work. There is so much quarrel and trouble all over the world. We are confident that if the transcendental message of Srimad Bhagavatam is received only by the leading men of the world, certainly there'll be change of heart, and naturally the people in general will follow them. The mass of people in general are tools in the hands of the modern politicians and leaders of the people. If there is a change of heart of the leaders only, certainly there will be a radical change in the atmosphere of the world. We know that our honest attempt to present this great literature, conveying transcendental messages for reviving the God consciousness of the people in general and re-spiritualizing the world atmosphere, is fraught with many difficulties. Our presenting this matter is inadequate language, especially a foreign language, will certainly fail. And there will be so many literary discrepancies despite our honest attempt to present it in the proper way. But we are sure that with all our faults in this connection, the seriousness of the subject matter will be taken into consideration, and the leaders of society will still accept this due to its being an honest attempt to glorify the Almighty God. When there's fire in the house, in a house, the inmates of the house go out to get help from the neighbors who may be foreigners, and yet without knowing the language, the victims of the fire express themselves, and the neighbors understand the need, even though not expressed in the same language. The same spirit of cooperation is needed to broadcast this transcendental message of the Srimad Bhagavatam throughout the polluted atmosphere of the world. After all, it's a technical science of spiritual values, and thus we are concerned with the techniques and not with the language. If the techniques of this great literature are understood by the people of the world, there will be success. When there are too many materialistic activities by the people in general all over the world, there's no wonder that a person or a nation attacks another person or nation on slight provocation. That's the rule of this age of Kali or quarrel. The atmosphere is already polluted with corruption of all description, and everyone knows it well. There are so many unwanted literatures full of materialistic ideas of sense gratification. In many countries, there are bodies appointed by the state to detect the censor obscene literature. In many countries, there are bodies appointed by the state to detect and censor obscene literature. This means that neither the government nor the responsible leaders of the public want such literature. Yet, it's in the marketplace because the people want it for sense gratification. The people in general want to read it. That is a natural instinct. But because their minds are polluted, they want such literatures. Under the circumstances, transcendental literature like Srimad Bhagavatam will not only diminish the activities of the corrupt mind of the people in general, but also it will supply food for their hankering after reading some interesting literature. In the beginning, they may not like it because one suffering from jaundice is reluctant to take sugar candy. But we should know that sugar candy is the only remedy for jaundice. Similarly, let there be systematic propaganda for popularizing reading of the Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam, which will act like sugar candy for the jaundice-like condition of sense gratification. When men have a taste for this literature, the other literatures which are catering poison to society will then automatically cease. We are sure, therefore, that everyone in human society will welcome Srimad Bhagavatam, even though it's now presented with so many faults, for it is recommended by Sri Narada, who has very kindly appeared in this chapter. So I'll repeat this verse once again because it's such a beautiful verse. Tadvag visargo janataga viplavo yasmin pratishlokam abadhyavadyapi namani anantasya yashonkitani yad shrinmanti gayanti grinanti sadhava. Okay, so beautifully Prabhupada has given this purport. Okay, the translation is like I already told you, like, people this transcendental literature which is describing the name, forms, pastimes of the Lord, okay? Especially scriptures like Srimad Bhagavatam, okay? it is this is describing the unlimited qualities of the Lord. Okay, so it's full of transcendental words, um, and these words of these great literatures like Srimad Bhagavatam, they can bring about a revolution in the human society. Okay, because of its transcendental nature. And this kind of literature, even if it is imperfectly composed, sometimes when people are translating, example like Prabhupada says, like, he has got so many frailties because the language is a foreign language. It's not, it's our language, okay? So he is an Indian by birth. And so he's not very fluent, though he went to the Scottish college and all that. Yeah, of course, still our accent and it's not our native language. So there are there's every chance that it will not be exactly like a British or an American person writing the same literature, because their mother tongue is naturally, of course, there are other people like Spanish and all that, but mostly they are English. So when what we can do naturally in our own language, okay, that we cannot do the same thing in a foreign language. So same thing Prabhupada says. So even in spite of this literature, if anybody composes any transcendental literature, but there are still many faults, okay, because man, it's natural for any man to make mistakes, okay, but for the Supreme Lord, he is all perfect, he will not make any mistakes. So since these Shrutis, of course, the Vedas by the Supreme Lord, so it's all perfect. But the Smritis, they are usually man-made. They are written, okay, by men. So, of course, even Vyasdeva has written, not even Vyasdeva has written, he's an incarnation of the Lord. Okay, so everything is perfect. But when we compose, so when Prabhupada says, when example, when he's translating this Srimad Bhagavatam, since it's a foreign language for him and he's translating it in English, so there could be many, many mistakes. But kindly overlook at all that and look at the subject matter, which is transcendental, and get the technique of what I'm trying to explain rather than the subject, okay, with so many mistakes, okay, rather than the language, not the subject. Rather, don't look at the language, which might be having many mistakes, okay. So that's what in this translation, the last line says, such transcendental literatures, even though imperfectly composed or heard, sung, and accepted by purified men, were thoroughly honest, okay, because they overlook, like, for example, even when I'm describing this transcendental literature, because I'm a human, I'm an ordinary human being, okay, there is an aspect of bhakti, because of that only we, all of you are listening. So in spite of that, there could be many mistakes, I can also make many mistakes, but you people are kind enough to overlook at all that, okay, and just get the essence of what I'm trying to say from this great literature, okay. So that is what even Prabhupada is telling, okay. So the great thinkers, they're like the swan, because the swans, what they do, they only when even if you give impure like milk mixed with water, they only extract the milk, okay, and they don't take the water, okay, the adulterated part. They only take the pure milk. So similarly, it's a qualification of great thinkers to pick up the best even from the worst, okay. So when we even see in the material world, some people, they complain for everything, whereas some people, they, when they look at the people, when they interact, usually the more advanced we are in bhakti, the easier for us to interact with all kinds of people, because they're so advanced, they overlook all their faults and they only take the best in everyone, okay. So that's why it's easier for the uttama bhaktas. They don't have problem with anybody. They, in fact, forget about the problem, they nourish everybody and they're affectionate to everybody. So that is because of their nature, like, similarly, these great thinkers, they only pick up the best from the worst. And they also say intelligent man picks up nectar even from poison, and they accept gold from a filthy place. There's a song in Tamil, like, I forgot in one old movie, that தங்கத்திலே ஒரு குறை இருந்தாலும், they say, like, it's not even still it is precious, like that. So like that. So, and even if it's in a filthy place, if we come across gold, all of us, like, no, it doesn't matter whether one person is rich or poor, or they belong to a high class, low class, or whatever, we still pick up the gold, like, it's an automatic thing we do. So, and also we accept a good and qualified wife. If there's a qualified person, a lady, even if she's born from a very low family, we have to accept her. That's what is the shastric injunction, okay? And also, even if a person is born in a Shudra family or in a low class family, okay, if he's talking something really, like, if he's a very good teacher who gives us a very good lesson, then we should listen to him. It doesn't matter which varna or ashram he is. If a person is giving a good lesson, if he's got the qualification, then we should hear from him. So these are some of the ethical instructions for everyone in every place without exception. But this is ordinary, like, material point of view. But now let's talk about the saint, okay? But a saint is far above the level of an ordinary man. He's always absorbed in glorifying the Supreme Lord, because by broadcasting the holy name and fame of the Supreme Lord, the political atmosphere of the world will change, okay? So, because he's constantly thinking of the welfare of the society, of the mankind, so he's always the best thing to do in whatever situation we are. The best thing is not to sit and lament of about the situation. Just immediately, what is the point? Krishna tells in Srimad Bhagavad Gita, only fools lament. So we read everything, but when we come across some issue, we sit and lament. So if we are wise, it's better immediately, instead of wasting time. So what is going to happen if we are going to worry? We are going to go low and low. That's all, nothing else. So you better have some proper association, keep in contact with some devotees, okay? And read some wonderful books. There is hundreds and hundreds of books, and start preaching or discuss something, or do something related to bhakti. Then immediately you're out and you're going up the ladder rather than sinking down, okay? The minute we start doing bhakti, we are in Shuddha Sattva platform. We are with the Lord. Whether we talk about the Lord, hear about the Lord, read about the Lord, or sing about the Lord, whatever we do, we are in pure state. Forget about our consciousness. We might be in tamo, rajo, or any of these material gunas. That's okay. But the minute we start doing bhakti, because bhakti is pure, irrespective of our nature. So we are when the moment we are doing bhakti, we are also pure, because it is a Shuddha Sattva platform. It's nirguna. Okay. So if an intelligent person, whenever is in crisis, or whether he's in crisis, not in crisis, very good. All the time he should be happy, like, But the moment we start doing bhakti, because bhakti is always pure, we immediately become blissful. All of us would have noticed the moment we are out of bhakti, all the problem starts only then. So it's always better to be completely engrossed in the Lord. Whatever work we do, it's better we get engrossed. Whatever, even mundane job also, cooking, okay, we're cooking for Krishna. Okay. And we are cleaning the house. Oh, it's the house of Krishna. We're cleaning the house. You're working. Okay, we're working in the office to make money so that we can serve Krishna. Okay. And Krishna's property, all the kids, the husband, everybody is Krishna's mercy upon us. Okay. So everything, if we think like that, nothing is mundane. Okay, we are always in the Shuddha Sattva platform. Even though it appears like we are doing mundane thing, how is that? It is like that because the scripture says it's like that. And mind is such a powerful thing. Okay, and in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says mind can be your friend and can also be an enemy. So sometimes when we are in these problems, we wonder, just tough to get out of um, this depression, or to control the mind is very tough. So yesterday also I bought one book, like, how to control this mind. Like, so then what is the great difficulty? Like, just keep doing bhakti. Okay, then automatically, even if you read, if you keep reading, even though you're not focused, but that has got some effect, even though you're feeling low, immediately you transcend, like, it makes, because bhakti automatically gives us happiness. When you're doing bhakti, we will 100% gain happiness. Like other day also I was telling in Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu, yeah, actually we don't have to go to any specific literature and refer. Bhakti itself is like, Satchit and Ananda, like, it gives us, it is eternal, it is knowledge, and it is, what do you call, happiness, Ananda. Okay. So that
Bliss.
whenever, excuse me?
Bliss, no?
Yeah, bliss. That's what Ananda, bliss. So, Satchidananda. So, this bhakti, yeah, all of us, you simply, if somebody asks us something, so if we are eating something, okay, if you are hungry, we are hungry, then somebody will say, how do you know your hunger is gone? We don't have to ask if we are hungry, if we eat something. After eating, we don't have to go and ask somebody, as my hunger subsided. No, it is we know how the hunger is subsided because our body is nourished, we are feeling full, we are feeling satisfied. That pain, that suffering has gone from during hunger. Our stomach is like, especially for a little time, more time, if you are being without food, that time it is really painful process. So the moment, just a moment, please, 1 second. Sorry, Mataji, Hare Krishna, all of you. Okay. So the best thing is, instead of sitting and lamenting and all those things, just get into bhakti, do some process of bhakti, or get in association with a devotee. Okay, after the problem solved, and continue the process continuously, we will be advancing. Okay, that's what I realized. I'm telling out of my realization. Okay, so, and okay, this person, the saint, okay, is always absorbed in glorifying the Supreme Lord. Because today also, like, in Bhanu Maharaj bookstall in Mayapur here, uh, like one lady, she came and she was telling, my God, so many books Maharaj has written. So suddenly it struck me, like, Maharaj is not wasting a single moment. Like, he's writing at least 13, 14, 15 hours or whatever it is, maybe more. That's what they were telling there. And like this. And otherwise, he's in Mangalarti or he's in Darshanati or he's something. And then he is continuously only with Krishna. Okay. So that moment when that Mataji told, oh, see, we know, I know, and I've heard this many times, but it is the mercy of the Sri Dham Mayapur. I don't know, whatever, all gurus and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nityananda Prabhu, Advaita Acharya, Gadadhar Pandit, Shivas Pandit, all of the Radha Madhava Ashasakis, Narsinghadev, Prahlad Maharaj, and all of them, all the wonderful devotees here, and the Dham, everything. I don't know. At that moment, it occurred, God, Maharaj has written so many books. Why can't I also do something? Okay. It's like that. Of course, every time we hear, but every time that such a realization will not come. You understand? So that is a one at the moment, like, momentary realization. We say, the same subject, Srimad Bhagavatam, the same shloka or something we'll be hearing many, 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 many times. Suddenly one day that meaning, that realization, of course, meaning, theoretical meaning, we know that realization suddenly will strike someday. I think it would have happened with all of you. Did it happen with any of you? Can any of you respond? We'll be hearing the same thing again and again, but someday, one day, we suddenly realize that, okay, no problem. All of you are being very, this thing, no problem. So modest and you don't want to answer. So this is, I don't know whether you're able to understand what I'm saying, but I suppose you understand. Okay. So, and atmosphere, and as a result, so, uh, and Prabhupada is giving an example here. He says when he's writing this commentation, especially for this particular stanza of Srimad Bhagavatam, India was facing a crisis because China and India were fighting with each other. And of course, the bombs flying over thick and air, like, he was in Kolkata at that time. That's what I remember reading somewhere long time back. Okay. So, and he's telling like China is attacking India's border and all, okay, border of India with a militaristic spirit. So, and actually, in his younger days, both China and India are actually for all these ages, like, India and China have been neighbors for all this while, but they never fought with each other because in those olden days, people were all spiritually inclined and there was no need to fight. And one more reason is they were also intelligent because this land for which they're fighting now is a wasteland, like, nobody can inhabit there, can live there, okay. So uh and so why should one fight for something which is not useful for anybody? Okay, at least, okay, if I get into the politics, then that's another problem. So at least, like, if you say Kashmir, okay, it's a gold mine. Okay, people are fighting. Actually, Pakistan and India. Pakistan was also India. Anyway, it split, and then they're fighting for this Kashmir. At least it has got some sense. But why? What is the point in fighting for a wasteland that is like, between China and India? Okay, so that's what he's telling. It's absolute waste. But that is the nature of Kali Yuga because people have a fight at the slightest of provocation. Okay, so uh, that is because the Kali Yuga is so polluted. So that is because naturally people tend to fight at the slightest provocation. Mm. And also, he says people are like, systematically there's a propaganda by a section of people to stop glorification of the name and fame of the Supreme Lord. So we are saying our country is secular, so we should not preach about this God, that God, and also one in way some kind of thing is also going on, right? So, so, but he says there is a great need for disseminating, okay, preaching about the message of Srimad Bhagavatam all over the world because especially Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also says, right? He says, like, everybody born in India, they have this dharma. They have to preach to people in all the other places also, okay? To all the other people throughout the world. It is our dharma because we are born here and we are naturally inclined, okay, to worship the Lord and to preach about the Lord. So we should do it for the welfare of the society in general, especially to the people of the Western, not only Western, throughout the world. And the same thing Srila Prabhupada is telling here. Okay, there's a great need of disseminating the message of Srimad Bhagavatam all over the world. It is the duty of every responsible Indian to broadcast the transcendental message of Srimad Bhagavatam throughout the world to do all the more supermost good as well as to bring about the desired peace in the world. So, but India's failed to in our duty by neglecting this responsible work. So that's why there's so much quarrel and trouble all over the world. So he says very quickly we have to start doing this. Then because everywhere there's quarrel, wherever you take any state, every other day, sometimes there's no quarrel at all, but the new people who come and they'll say one country, poor country is there, and they're telling it's my land, what to do. Okay. In Europe, recently, you people, all of us would have noticed the new president of a very big country. He suddenly, after coming to power, he's telling that neighboring land is ours. Like, it is like, it doesn't make any sense at all. Okay. So, we are confident that if the transcendental message of Srimad Bhagavatam is received only by the leading men of the world, certainly there'll be a change of heart, and naturally, the people in general will follow them. So, whatever the great leaders do, the ordinary men follow. Okay. So the mass of people in general are tools in the hands of modern politicians and leaders of the people. Okay, so the easiest thing is, Prabhupada says, if you just inspire the leaders, then naturally they can bring about a change in the mass of people. Okay, because the ordinary people, they follow the leaders. Okay, so and so he says, even I am not an expert in the English language. And I've sincerely tried to translate this Srimad Bhagavatam in English, and it might be, and is sure that it will be full of faults, and assured that with all our faults, okay, he's not saying full of faults. In this connection, the seriousness of the subject matter should be taken into consideration. Okay, they should focus on the subject matter rather than the language. Okay. And he says, like, when if there is a fire in a house, the people, the neighbors might be speaking a different language than these people, the owners of the house, uh, which is spread with fire, okay, which has caught fire. So at that time, Even though we do not know the language, we just scream and we say, we point out, we do use different hand gestures and facial expressions and tell them that there's a fire here. So, okay. The victims of the fire, they express themselves, and the neighbors, they understand the need, okay, even though it is not expressed in the same language, and they come and help. Like that, this Srimad Bhagavatam, it is, though it's not my own language, I have described it in a foreign language. So even though there'll be mistakes, the people, they should know the urgency, because to protect, like, the world, this is very much needed. So they should understand the technique and the subject matter rather than looking at the discrepancies in the language. So actually, if there are too many materialistic activities by the people in general all over the world, then we know that there'll be so many wars and so many epidemics and so many things happening. Okay, so that is a rule of the age of Kali or quarrel. So already the atmosphere is polluted, okay, with corruption of all description, and everyone knows it well. So. And also it says in many countries there is this censorship, okay, for this obscene literature and all that. So what does this mean? The government doesn't want, the responsible leaders do not want this, but the public are still wanting it, because it is, they're deriving sense gratification. So, but this can be changed, okay, if they under the circumstances, transcendental literature like Srimad Bhagavatam will not only diminish the activities of the corrupt mind of the people in general, but also it will supply food for their hankering after reading some interesting literature. Okay, so they want that happiness. They want that real happiness. That is the nature of the jiva. That, okay, the basic, the natural tendency of the jiva. So to get this, because they don't have proper association, okay, with devotees, they are, because of materialistic contamination, they are only getting association of those mundane people, and they're getting their hands on this useless sensual literature, and they engage in the sense gratification. But if the devotees show mercy and spread this Srimad Bhagavatam and this transcendental literature, in the beginning they might not like it. They will not, they'll refuse to even associate with us. But we have to use our intelligence and somehow or other spread this transcendental message. Okay, so either we can give them prasadam, or we can subtly give the name to them, Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Somehow or the other, let them hear the name, and somehow or the other, first of all, preachers, like, first job is to somehow or the other develop faith in them. That is our first job. After they develop the faith, then uh, we can start talking the literatures, like, spreading the literatures, transcendental literature among these kind of people. So in the beginning, it might be poison to them, because when a person is afflicted with jaundice, he doesn't want to take the sweet candy, because even the sweet candy will taste bitter to him. But what is the remedy? To take the sweet candy, okay, even in spite of it being bitter to their tongues. But eventually they become cured. So similarly, by continuously hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam and the transcendental literatures, people get purified, okay? And similarly, let there be systematic propaganda for popularizing reading of the Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam, which will act like sugar candy for the jaundice-like condition of sense gratification. So then when they develop a taste for this literature, okay, the other literature which they are interested in, the mundane, that which are catering poison to society, will automatically cease. They'll gradually get rid of that, like, taste for the mundane literature. Okay, so so we are sure, therefore, that everyone in human society will welcome Srimad Bhagavatam, even though it's now presented with so many faults. Was recommended by Sri Narada, who has very kindly appeared in this chapter. So nicely, Prabhupada says, like, now he's requesting all of us to overlook the grammatical or any error in English that he has written, and to just appreciate the subject matter. And he says it's recommended by Sri Narada, okay? Because on the recommendation of Narada Muni only, Vyasadeva wrote the commentary on the Vedanta Sutra, the natural commentary called Srimad Bhagavatam. Why is it natural? Because Vyasadeva wrote the Vedanta Sutra and he only wrote this, he is the author of this as well. So it's a natural commentary, okay? So, and because it's been recommended by Narada, was very kindly appeared in this chapter. How very sweet of Prabhupada, how much of faith he has. So, he's requesting all of us um, to welcome Srimad Bhagavatam, okay, in our lives. Hare Krishna, thank you so much for kindly.
Mataji, thank you, Mataji.
Welcome, Mataji. Thank you for all of your eagerness to hear this. Thank you so much. That's why I somehow immediately started this class. Hare Krishna.